Well, we're back, and now we're going to be starting our first segment, which is called Revving It Up. And we're going to break down Speed Weeks for you right now.
Again, Speed Weeks coming to you weekend before Memorial Day this year. Inaugural GoBio action on YouTube. As we kick off our 2008 season, we're going to be breaking down all the action that's going to be happening during Speed Weeks and our predictions therein.
Yeah.
So we're going to begin our breakdown of Speed Weeks with the Bud Shootout, the annual exhibition race for pole winners of the previous year. Steve, why don't you explain the rules of the Bud Shootout and give us a breakdown of who's going to be participating?
Okay, well the Bud Shootout is basically a race that is comprised of two segments. The first segment is a 20-lap segment, which just determines the starting order of the second segment, which is the longer 50-lap segment. That includes one mandatory pit stop for all drivers. And basically, whoever wins that race is entitled to all the Bud Shootouts for the rest of their career, and they don't have to depend on getting a pole position during the next season in order to be guaranteed a spot. They're already guaranteed a spot for the rest of their life.
Last year, Jeff Burton was the victor of the inaugural Bud Shootout under the GoBio banner, although he didn't need it to qualify for this year, as he was a winner of 2 poles over the course of 2007. So, who's going to be participating?
Well, we have 15 drivers this year, which is a pretty decent amount of drivers. We have Matt Kenseth, of course, last year's GoBio champion. We have Jeff Burton, who was last year's Bud Shootout winner. Tony Stewart, who was the Daytona 500 winner. Jeff Gordon, who was the season-ending winner at Homestead. We have Kurt Busch, who won the night Bristol race and the Coca-Cola 600, 2 major events. We have Mark Martin, who won at Las Vegas and also at Wilkesboro. Kyle Busch, who won the very next weekend after his brother at Darlington. And then we have Dale Earnhardt Jr., who also won at Michigan and the Talladega race in Chase. Denny Hamlin, whose first and only win of the season came at Riverside. Jimmy Johnson, who of course took victory at, was it Watkins Glen and the Pepsi 400.
I'm verifying that, go on.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick, who was winless over the season but did manage a pole at Talladega in the fall. Carl Edwards, who won at Sears Point and Richmond Raceway, the race before the Chase. We have Greg Biffle, who apparently we have somebody swatting over there. I'm not going to get rid of that. Somebody get rid of that security. We have Greg Biffle, who of course did not win a race, as neither did Jamie McMurray. And the surprise participant in this season's Bud Shootout, A.J. Allmendinger, who shocked the world with a pole position at North Wilkesboro, narrowly beating out Kevin Harvick.
Allmendinger had a season largely to forget other than that pole. His best finish came at that race in North Wilkesboro. He managed a 21st place in that effort. Something interesting, we have 4 of the Rashketeers here in the Bud Shootout, making up the 15-car field.
Yeah, all but David Reagan, and that's very impressive. And I think that's something that they should maybe consider when deciding who they should keep and who they should get rid of next year. As you know, next season, all teams will be mandatory. It'll be mandatory that they cut down to 4 race teams.
Maximum.
So they will not be able to keep their 5th driver.
So 4 from Roush and 3 from Hendrick, and that makes up half the field.
Yes, it does. So, Mike, you want to tell us your prediction for the Bud Shootout winner?
Well, after thinking long and hard about the Bud Shootout,
That's what she said.
The rules involved, it's a short sprint-type race. It tends to favor drivers that are more aggressive. It would favor drivers that have performed well at Daytona in the past. And it would favor a driver with teammates. And the driver that I selected managed a 10th place effort in the Daytona 500 and a 7th place effort in the 4th of July weekend night race, the Pepsi 400. That driver is Kyle Busch, and he is my pick to win the Budweiser Shootout.
Excellent. You care to elaborate on that a little bit more? Why Kyle Busch might do that?
Oh, like I said, he fulfills all the requirements I listed above. He's a young gun with great incentive to perform well in this exhibition race. What is that duck doing there? I don't know.
I think we successfully killed it. Continue, Mike. Sorry for that rude interruption.
He had teammates, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, very accomplished teammates at that, who can help push him to victory in the teammate-centric draft format at Daytona ever since the restricted plates were introduced back in the late 80s. And he is a talented restricted plate racer. He amassed the 3rd most points among all drivers in the 4-point playing restricted plate events last year. Getting rid of the other dog.
Didn't do so well in the two Daytona races over the season. The Daytona 500, he finished 30th, and the Pepsi 400 came 39th. My pick this season to win the Bud Shootout is Matt Kenseth, last year's champion, and I think he'll be able to ride his major wave of success into the season exhibition race, and I think he'll be able to exhibit a lot of power simply because that his team will be ready, I think, to overcome the obstacles of this year's Daytona. And I don't think there's going to be too much pressure on them to perform too well, especially in the exhibition race. Maybe in Daytona, they'll be shooting pretty hard for Daytona, but as for bragging rights, I think they already have a significant amount of that. They don't have to worry too much.
So you've got Matt Kenseth, and I've got Kai Busch. Matt Kenseth does have the benefit of having a teammate that's won at Daytona. Greg Biffle won his first ever race in 2003 Pepsi 400.
This is true.
And Biffle will be participating in the Budweiser Shootout. One of only three non-chasers that won a pole in 07.
Yes.
Moving on, after the festivities of the Bud Shootout, we move into the real points-paying portion and the more significant one with greater implications for the remainder of the season. We move into the Gatorade Duels. Steve, why don't you explain to us the format of the Gatorade Duels?
Well, the Gatorade Duels are a pair of races that are run on Thursday afternoon to decide the lineup of the Daytona 500. Of course, the first two drivers in the field are already set based on their qualifying performances earlier in the week. But, sorry, we're still having some issues down there. But the Gatorade Duels have been a staple in speed weeks ever since NASCAR was initiated.
They were originally points-paying races, but after NASCAR determined that all races under 250 miles in length couldn't be points-paying races anymore, they were consigned to determining starting positions for the Daytona 500.
And it's proven to be sometimes just as exciting as the actual race itself, especially for drivers who need to finish well in that race in order to ensure themselves a spot in the 500.
Well, sure. Just to recap, the top 34 drivers, the top 34 teams in owner points in the 2007 season are locked into the Daytona 500 in addition to the 3 races subsequent to it. That leaves 8 spots in the 42-car field that can be filled, and we have a number of drivers in each race that are going to be fighting for 2 spots that can be earned in each of the Gatorade Duels. The remaining 4 spots will be determined via the B-main run that Saturday. Steve, why don't you tell us who's going to be participating in the high-stakes portion of this race?
You mean the drivers that need to go or go home?
The drivers that need to go or go home.
Okay, well, drivers that do need to qualify well in the Gatorade 125 at Daytona include Michael, okay, not necessary.